What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so I just want to do a quick reminder. Those of you who want the uncensored, unfiltered, and unencumbered version of Too Raw for TV, I strongly suggest you guys consider signing up to the Patreon. It's only $2 per month as far as the lower tier. On that tier, I talk about politics, social issues, etc. The $5 tier is the one where I exclusively talk about the NBA, in particular, La Media, Clutch Sports, LeBron James, and all of the other goofiness that's going on with basketball today. So there's a link to that in the description box, the Patreon. And of course, there's a link to the Patreon in the pinned comment in the comment section below. There's also the Rumble. All right, so this is a requested video from one of my subscribers. Shout out to the brother. So he wanted me to do a ranking as far as these 6 players in order of dominance. Now, it's not what you think. It's not necessarily in dominance as how they are in real life, but with added attributes. All right? So, in this scenario, you may recall I did a video the other day about what if Dennis Rodman had Kyrie Irving's handles, right? Well, that still applies for Dennis Rodman here. This Dennis Rodman, in this alternate reality, he has Kyrie Irving's handles. Michael Jordan, in this alternate reality, has Klay Thompson's three-point shooting ability. All right? Shaquille O'Neal has Steve Nash's free throw shooting accuracy. Kevin Durant, in this scenario, has Dennis Rodman's rebounding ability. Nikola Jokic, in this scenario, has Ben Wallace's defense. And Dirk Nowitzki has Wilt Chamberlain's athletic ability. This is very difficult. I have to say, though, out of all 6 of them, the one that jumps out of my mind as the most unstoppable, because I'm having these guys still playing in the eras that they played in. The most unstoppable, in my opinion, is Shaq with Steve Nash's free throw ability. Because that was the one glaring weakness of Shaq, was his inability to knock down free throws on a high level. Okay? And he seemed to have gotten worse over his career. He started off in his career shooting like 57% or so from the free throw line. And then in the latter seasons, with a few exceptions, he shot somewhere around 40, in the mid-40s, 45, 46%. And I think a lot of it had to do with him getting stronger. Like I said, there's a definite correlation between free throw disparity and being strong. It definitely is. You can see it with Wilt Chamberlain as well. You can see that with Ben Wallace. You know, most of these guys who are real strong. Chris Dudley's another guy who was strong and struggled with shooting free throws. But yeah, Shaq, I mean, if he had the ability to shoot free throws, well, then he would have scored probably an additional 4,000 plus points in his career. He would have won a minimum, just off the top of my head, of 5 scoring titles, because he won it in 95 and 2000, right? Then there was other years where it was real close, 94, 98, 2000. Excuse me, 99, not 2000. Those years, it was real close between him and Allen Iverson. Iverson led the league in scoring 99. Jordan beat him 28.7 points per game, 28.3. And then in 95, he beat, 94, he lost to David Robinson 29.8 points per game, 29.3, I think. So if he's shooting 90% from the line, 88 to 92% from the line, he's going to win scoring titles in those years. Then there's some other years where him shooting 90+% from the line probably gets him the scoring title as well. So minimum 5 or 6 scoring titles. It changes the complexion of the game because, one of the things that hurt teams, although Shaq often said that he would make them when it counted, which was kind of true, but it did hurt the team with the Hacker Shaq thing, Oftentimes, teams got back in games with the Hacker Shaq strategy. Didn't work all the time because the other team sometimes didn't score, and Shaq normally will make one, so you kind of adding a point to the Lakers every time, and then if the other team isn't scoring their possession, then it doesn't really work. But if the other team is scoring, then it worked. But at a limit, there's no such thing as a Hacker Shaq if you shoot 91% from the free throw line. Also, I can't help but think that if his touch from the line was better, his overall touch would be better. If Shaq had a touch around the basket that was a little bit more refined, then his 58% career field goal percentage, which was very high for the era that he played in. Remember, back then centers were only shooting 47% from the floor on average. Today they shoot 58%, but a lot of it's just there's very little resistance. That's why a guy recently came close to breaking Wilt Chamberlain's consecutive field goals made record, because there's very little resistance when it comes to centers now. You can't stay in the paint like that. But anyway, I can't help but think that Shaq would have led league in field goal percentage even more. He led league in field goal percentage, I think he led league in field goal percentage, 10 times? An NBA record? He probably led league in field goal percentage 15 times, minimum. He would have shot probably 62% from the floor or something like that. I mean, he just would have been even more accurate. So not only would he have scored more points with free throws, he would have made more field goals. So now I'm thinking about it, yeah, he probably would have won at least as many scoring titles as Michael Jordan, if not more. I mean, this version of Shaq would be totally unstoppable because he had really no weaknesses. Only thing you could kind of hope for is that he would wear out, tire him out. But that Shaq, off the top of my head, with these powers, I think is number one. Number two, to me, for the respective eras that they played in, I would have to go with, and this might sound surprising, I'm talking about the eras they played in now. I would go with Jokic with Ben Wallace's defense. Because the one weakness of Jokic is, his slowness, and he's not a great defender. Though, at times, he can put up more effort. I think he's gotten better. But my goodness, if this man had Ben Wallace's defense, which means he'd been quicker, and Ben Wallace was a defender. Ben Wallace wasn't just a guy that blocked shots. You know what I'm saying? Ben Wallace was a guy that covered a lot of space. You know what I'm saying? Ben Wallace's defense extended out and damn near to the perimeter. When he was in his prime years. He had the lateral quickness to guard smaller players. He got in the passing lanes. He wasn't just blocking shots, he was getting steals. Disrupting it, help defense, all of that. Ben Wallace was an absolute monster. Ben Wallace has one of the lowest, I think he has the 5th lowest career defensive rating of all time. 5th lowest. And he has the NBA record during the 2004 season with the Pistons when they won the championship. He has the record for the highest defensive win share earning in NBA history, 9.1. That's stratospheric. If you give Jokic that level of defense, plus he's the offensive player he is today, He's unstoppable. He already has the highest career PR rating. Now, a lot of that is because he benefits from playing the era he plays in. And he hasn't had a decline period because Michael Jordan is a Bull, had a 29 plus PR rating, and his prime was damn near 30. So you got to keep that in perspective. But still, this version of Jokic would be unstoppable. Next, I would say will be Michael Jordan with Klay Thompson 3-point percentage, 3-point shooting. Now, the thing about it is, I'm thinking about Jordan, the younger Jordan, the explosive Jordan. Even though he was winning championships in the late 90s, and that would be retained, but I'm thinking about this guy as a high flyer in the 80s, but being able to spot up and shoot, because, Klay, I'm thinking as a spot-up shooter, not the creative shooting, the ball handler that Steph is, shooting off the dribble, fade away. I'm not talking about that. I'm thinking about Klay Thompson when he was healthy. He was the greatest catch-and-shoot 3-point shooter I've ever seen in my life. The amount of space that he covered with the catch-and-shoot, the repetition, and before, he lost a little bit of quickness and speed because of injuries. I never saw a guy catch the ball, gather himself, and get behind the line with that quickness. And that's just comes from hours and hours and hours and hours of practice and repetition. Now, if you add that to Michael Jordan's repertoire, back when that was an unheard of weapon, in addition to the offensive gifts he already had, if this was like 91 Jordan, and he could shoot like Klay Thompson, well, he was already becoming a good 3-point shooter. But then he would have been the greatest 3-point shooter up to that era. So, yeah, man, he would have won. He would have averaged even more points. I know that he would have won the same amount of scoring titles because he wasn't playing more seasons, but his scoring average would have been even higher. 30 points per game. I mean, because as a Wizard, he was shooting, 29% from three? Some of that was knee and leg problems, age, finger issues. So you bumped it up to, 36%? Even in his waning years. So there have been more points on the table. In his peak, over 40% from three. 42, 43%. Yeah, he's been nasty. Plus, with his vertical leap, that's another thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a dude that in his prime, even a little bit after his prime, his vertical leap 40 plus, 44, 45, 46 inches. Some measurements say almost 48. And, he had that ability to hang in the air and shit. So, man, yeah, he would have been, if he had Klay Thompson's shooting ability from outside, and he could shoot from deep, like, even back then, 30, 35 feet and in, yeah, Jordan have been unbelievable, man. Even more, like, could score in the post, great post player, one of the best, if not the best, mid-range shooter in the game, then the best 3-point shooter in the game. I mean, goddamn. Goddamn. Like, what can you stop? Nothing. And he didn't have any issues with his, his endurance and shit. So, yeah, he's next to me. Then I would go with maybe Dirk Nowitzki with Wilt's athleticism. But the problem is, not the problem, but the thing is, Dirk was a great shooter, a great shooting big man. But the problem I have with this is if he was blessed with Wilt's athleticism, I have a hard time believing that he would rely solely on his shooting. You know what I'm saying? I would think if he had Wilt's quickness and his athleticism and leaping ability, his game would be different. So that's the problem I have with this one. His total game would be different. I mean, I'm assuming that he keeps Dirk Nowitzki's outside shooting ability, 37, 38% from outside, which is tremendous in the area he played in. Still be an 86, 87, 88% free throw shooter. But with Wilt's athleticism, now I don't know whether he would have had Wilt's rebounding ability in this situation, but he'd been an improved rebounder, I guess. I mean, I'm thinking he'd be a guy that one-on-one would be a nightmare. I mean, he'd just be the highlight reels galore, man. Facials, power dunks. I mean, he'd be a terror in the post back then. Will's athleticism? Forget about it. Forget about it. Forget about it, man. I mean, he would be probably the greatest power forward ever if he had that combination. The greatest power forward ever. Now I don't know whether he would have won 5 championships like Tim Duncan, but skill set wise, yeah, the greatest power forward ever. Next, I would go with Dennis Rodman with Kyrie Irving's handles. But there is a little caveat. If he's playing when Dennis Rodman played, he wouldn't be able to do all the things he does with the basketball because they don't call carrying or traveling anymore. But still, with Kyrie Irving's handles, I've done a video on that before. In that capacity, I thought he'd be perhaps the greatest player of all time. But in this scenario, still he would be arguably the greatest player of all time. Just if it was just him. I already talked about that in video before, so that's why I have him. Last, I have Kevin Durant with Dennis Rodman's rebound ability. Now, the reason why I have him last is because I'm just not. I don't know, man. I'm just not sold on Kevin Durant like I used to, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. Durant fans, don't get mad at me, okay? He is a tremendous all-time player, top 20 all-time player. But you guys got to admit, man. Look, just admit this. It's hard to put this guy on the same pedestal as others when you look at the fact that he has not won consistently since he left the Warriors. And the Phoenix Suns are becoming a disappointment. The media is not giving them the same smoke they would give other teams, but they've been a disappointment. And he hasn't won anything outside that Warriors team. I mean, hell, you could have put anybody on that Warriors team and they would have won championships. They were only a couple of plays or a couple possessions away from winning a back-to-back title in 2016. So any additional superstar, Chris Paul, if you put Chris Paul, that version of Chris Paul on the Warriors, he's winning 2 championships. Hell, I think Kobe Bryant could have hung around. Even though it wouldn't have been his style, Kobe Bryant could have come off the bench and probably led that team and been a part of the championship team. Just come off the bench. If that was his goal, intention of just getting 7 championships. You know, so, and when I look at KD, like, you got to have, like, toughness. You got to have, like, you got to be fearless sometimes. You got to be hard. You got to have a desire to rebound. Like, it's not a glamorous thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to have that hustle and that heart, man. And I don't know if he would have. I mean, if he had Dennis Rodman's rebounding instincts, would he have put up the same rebounding numbers? I don't know. I could see him averaging 27 and 11 for his career. But if he had Dennis Rodman's rebound ability, but I don't know if he would have gone all out like Dennis did, man. There was some games, man. If you look at Dennis Rodman rebounding, man, forget that rebounding percentage rate thing, man. I know it says Drummond #1, but man, a lot of that got to do with pace and all this other stuff, man. And another thing too, Drummond doesn't have the competition that Dennis had at rebounding. Like, who's a great rebounder right now? The last few years, like maybe DeAndre Ayton, not DeAndre, excuse me, DeAndre Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't have as many people in his prime to go against in that regard. But anyway, you know, Dennis Rodman, he had Barkley, Elijah Wan, Dave Robinson, Jason Williams, not the point guard Jason Williams, but the power forward Jason Williams. I mean, he had competition. He had competition in that regards. Kevin Willis, Matumbo, you know what I'm saying? There was some other guys too. He had competition in that position. There were games when Dennis Rodman would have like 23 rebounds, and there's literally 10 other possessions where he came that close to getting a board. I mean, just the greatest rebounding instincts I've ever seen in my life. But that's pretty much how I have it, y'all. Y'all may not agree, but that's pretty much how I would rank it. Tell me what you guys think.